Hey, how are ya? Hey, what's up? Happy Sunday morning. Happy Sunday morning. Wow, the lights, I feel like the lights a bit not perfect today, but whatever. There's a lot that's not perfect today. But we're going to get by. I don't know if you can see it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help you see it. Yes, an air diffuser, as I like to call them, or as my daughter, as they're actually called, or as my daughter, good morning Colleen, morning Tom, morning Sharovic, who else was that? And Jason. But as my daughter calls them, an air confuser. So we have an air confuser. Morning Rich, morning Tom. Nice. I love this. I'm seeing the same people that are here Monday through Friday here on Sunday. Arenas, welcome. So that's really cool. That means that you're like my number one listeners and fans and followers, and I appreciate that. So I'll get into more detail, but so because of poor planning and lack of execution, I'm coming to you on Sunday morning. Don't normally come to you on Sunday morning because I prefer Sunday morning, but I didn't. So I'm recording now. But a good thing about that is maybe it'll bring us some new viewers, you know? Because, it's a different time. Get ready to go to church here in 48 minutes. So I'm going to knock out this week's What I Learned. Good morning, Bill. Going to knock out this week's What I Learned, and then we're going to go on our merry way. Today's the daddy-daughter dance at my daughter's school, so I got to get spiffed up for that one. So that's pretty fun. John, welcome. All right, everybody. So let's rock and roll. I'm going to share this, and we're going to get cracking. Hope you're all having a solid weekend. Hope you had a nice Saturday night. Your Sunday's off to a good start. I slept in this morning. Felt good. Slept in this morning. Woke up. Family time. Thought, Christy Carey Young, are you really watching, or is it an automatic watching but not watching? Had a very fun party at Miles and Ella's birthday party last night. Hi, yes, you're there. Hello, Christy and or Miles, Landon and or Ella. Yeah, so let's rock and roll. So I'm going to run through this week's What I Learned. Did I just share it? Your storage is almost full. Hi, Miles. Miles, let's everyone wish Miles a happy birthday. I think the actual birthday was yesterday. So let's say happy birthday, Miles. And also, Miles is a big fan of the jacket, the old Italian Stallion jacket. And this is a fun story about that jacket, the black and yellow jacket that I've been posting. So, Christy's brother pointed out that there is a scene in Rocky. I think it's Rocky, 3, but I don't know, where he's training, jump roping. There's some media present, and he actually has that black silky jacket with Italian Stallion on the back, except on the front it has a nice cursive R. So it is a little different, and he has these really high cut, like they're kind of like those Coach, or is it Coach shorts, the bike coaching shorts from a long time ago, but they're bright yellow, so I think that's what it might be for Halloween. So if you're in the Harrisburg area, watch out. You're going to want to shut your eyes on Halloween, because it's exactly what I'm going to be. All right. Darlene, also, thank you for the delicious soup. So Darlene made me some chicken noodle soup and some chili. The fam and I ate 2 of the 4 yesterday, so thank you very much for that. But it was delish. I especially like the, actually they were both. I love the home, like when you have something homemade, I was going to say the chili had a really distinct taste. But when you make something homemade, I just feel like it like tastes homemade, like it tastes real. It tastes better, and I really like it. All right, so let's get rocking and rolling. Miles, your homework is to tell me one thing you learned today, and then write 2 sentences about it, okay? All right, Okay, so now I'm going into podcast mode. The link above So what I'm doing right now, I'm going over, I'll tell you in the podcast. 1, 2, 3. Hello all and welcome to this week's What I Learned This Week. It is edition number 48, and I want to put this out there. It's Sunday morning. I'm recording live. If you haven't already, hop on over to Facebook, facebook.com/Charlie Spaniard. Click follow, enable notifications, because every single morning I'm live streaming AM Excellence. So if you're just listening on the podcast, I'm actually live streaming that on my Facebook page as I am doing this live streaming as well. So if you haven't already, hop on over to facebook.com/Charlie Spaniard. Enable notifications. Let's do us live. It's fun. We have pre-show banter, post-show banter, etc. And then every Monday through Friday, 6:30, 6:35. I try to be as close to 6:30 as possible, but you're getting a live version of AM Excellence. So again, pre and post banter. It's fun. We're developing a little, more than a little, community here on Facebook, so please, don't hesitate to connect there. But I want to put this out there. So the reason I'm recording on Sunday morning as opposed to recording on Friday and having this episode sent out on my podcast feed at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning is because I planned poorly. So I planned poorly. I had a busy Friday, came back, then I did was like prioritize and execute, family time, other priorities took precedence. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get this out, and I chose not to get this out until today. So, still coming your way. I will make it a point to get this out Saturday morning, 6 a.m. So be sure that you subscribe, search out Spaniard 101 on iTunes, Stitcher, whatever podcast app you're doing. And also go to charliespaniard.com to opt into this. So I created a document. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you see it right here. And I'm recording this episode from that document. So if you want this document emailed to you, it's great for leadership. It's great for, if you listen to the show, if you're a diehard listener of the show, that you want to get from point A to point B. You're not 100% happy with where you're at. You want to make some sort of adjustment. Maybe it's your health and fitness. Maybe it's professionally. Maybe it's personally in relationships. But you want to get from point A to point B. And this document is what I use personally. Because at the end of the day, I'm creating this so I can perform at a high level as I build this business, and it will do the same for you. I trust that you can use it, like I said, with your personal relationships, with your team, with your employees. Either outwardly or just consume it, and then kind of take these questions, the discussion points, and improve how you're operating. So charliespaniard.com to opt into that. The first thing I want to talk about, this is a pretty neat stat, and this is building on this idea of failure and fear. So failure and fear. In the book I'm reading this week, I capped off Dr. Cindra Campoff's Beyond Grit, and I started Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk, which I'll dive into. But it's almost like the more you read on high performance, or the more you watch social media, aside from the negativity that's out there, the people who are posting positivity, this idea of failure and fear and hesitation and self-doubt, it's becoming mainstream, and you almost can't watch interviews without hearing it. I mean, if you're paying attention to the Olympics, if you watched the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago, it's so prevalent. And this idea of fail your way to success, fail forward, etc. Read the book How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big by Scott Adams. That's such a fun book, such an enjoyable read, an easy read. But from Beyond Grit by Dr. Cindra Campoff, she said this. There's a statistic. It's an incredible statistic that says 17.5% of middle classers agreed with this statement. So 17.5% of middle classers agreed with this statement. Failure has taught me what I'm good at. All right? So take the middle classers of the world. 17.5% of them agreed with that statement. So that's a pretty low percentage, less than 20%. Failure has taught me what I'm good at. On the converse side of it, or the adverse, the other, whatever that correct word is, on the other side of it, 94.9% of ultra-high net worthers, so people who have a net worth of $30 million plus, agreed with that statement. So 17.5% of middle classers agreed with it. 95% of ultra-high net worthers agreed with it. So what's that telling you? So 95% of the people who are worth $30 million plus agreed with that statement, while only 17% of middle classers agree with that statement. Now, I'm a middle classer. I'm not sitting on a podium of ultra high net worth classers up here. I'm saying I aspire to get to that point. If you're watching this show and you're a diehard listener, chances are you aspire to get to that point. So what's this stat telling us? This stat telling us is that we should write that sentence on our mirror, on our forehead, on our phone, everywhere we can see it. Failure has taught me what I'm good at. and then read it every day and believe it. Not just read it, believe it. Failure taught me what I'm good at. Failure also teaches you what you're not good at. I'll talk about real-world validation either today or in the upcoming episodes this week. But, failure taught me what I'm good at. So it taught me I wasn't good at this. Boom, I go to this. Boom, I'm good at this. So failure taught me what I'm good at. Fail forward, fail your way to success. Whatever soundbite sticks best with you, adapt that sentence as truth if you look at making a dent in the universe. Next thing, and I'm gonna jump into this book, Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. Now, I talk about mentorship a lot, and there's a lot of people out there who listen to the show that I don't know and I never will meet. But you've taken some of either my wisdom or the wisdom I've shared from other people, and it's made a dent or it's made a difference in your life. That's a form of mentorship, whether it's direct or indirect. So there's people that I listen to, watch, observe, The Rock being probably the most prominent. Jocko Willink is another big one. Guys who've been on my show, Dave Burke, Scott Adams. So there's all these people that I'm receiving an indirect mentorship from. They don't even, some of them know my name, but they don't even know my name, half these people. So open your mind up and your eyes up to those people. Just because you can't talk to them doesn't mean you can't learn from them. Gary Vaynerchuk is one of those people. The first book of his, I think he's written 5 books. The first one I read, it had to be 10 years ago. And I remember, if you hear me talk about Zerby, he's on my podcast, one of my close friends. He's had interactions with, the most successful online media businesses you can imagine. So he knows his stuff. And years ago, he said to me, read this book, listen to this guy. So I've been kind of studying this guy forever, for 10 years at least. And his new book came out. It's called Crushing It. It's about, it's about building a personal brand. It's about influencing. It's about digital marketing using social media. But one of the quotes from the book, he said early on, quote, "I was traveling the world spreading the word to anyone who would listen." I was traveling the world spreading the word to anyone who would listen. You've got to understand. So, social media in general, technology, it gives us all a voice. But the truth of the matter is the real world validation thing that all of us aren't necessarily just good at. Some of us just aren't good enough. Like we can't all be superstars. We can't. Maybe I won't be a superstar in the world of influencing and media, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm going to try my darndest. And that's kind of that's the root there, right? Is having the ability to try your darndest, and then getting the real world validation in return that will teach you what you're good at, building on the previous point of failure teaching you that. So he was not always this big time thing. I was traveling the world spreading the word to anyone who would listen. And I thought that was neat. And I wanted to drive that home because of this. Right now, what you're listening to, this is What I Learned This Week, number 48. I produced 420 AM Excellence episodes. I produced 165 or 66, extended episodes that are interviews or conversations. I'm building something special. I know I'm building something special because I built something special before in my fighting career, and I'm just replicating that process in another area. So I wanted to bring this sentence to its service today to thank you for listening. Because you're part of a minority. If you're watching on Facebook Live, I don't know, there's 10, 20, 30 people I don't know watching live. Or if you're listening to this, a couple hundred, 200 to 500 are going to listen to this episode. You are part of that. And the word that you're listening to is me doing what he did many, many years ago. I'm doing it now and putting the stake in the ground so that 10, 15, 20 years from now, I can have a real platform and a real voice to help you believe, right? To instill this energy and belief in millions of people rather than just hundreds of people. So for that, I'm sincerely appreciative, and that is the sole reason I wanted to bring that point to the surface. Next thing, building on this idea of fear and failure. This is kind of a common theme in this episode, but this is a quote from a solo-sode I did this week. So all of these points come from this week's content. So if you go to Spaniard 101 on iTunes, just scroll up the last 7 episodes and you're going to find these references in those episodes. But I said in the Tuesday episode, I really and truly am afraid of nearly everything. I'm afraid of fighting. I'm afraid of getting in trouble. I'm afraid of saying something that's going to offend someone. I think I operate on fear. But the important thing to recognize is it doesn't stop me from doing anything. I think there's a big line or a big wall that people feel like they have to, puff out their chest and be loud and proud and not admit to any sort of doubt or any sort of fear or any sort of weakness, a chink in your armor. Like I feel like people just they feel that. But the thing that wrestling did in this one-on-one competition, if you use competition the right way, it's like the most powerful thing in the world, the most helpful thing in the world. But wrestling did it. But fighting exposes you. Fighting puts you right in front to just win or lose on a big scale. And it's actual, aside from war, I mean, it's as real as it gets, except for life and death. So it really puts you in a spot where you confront your fear, and then you realize that your fear is manifested in your brain, and then when you step to the line and the ref says fight, if you put your time in, you're going to fight. And that's symbolic of the world. That's symbolic of taking on all of this stuff that comes your way and building this foundation of resilience, building this foundation of toughness, such that when the world throws stuff your way, when the world says fight, you fight. Because you're building your mental and physical skills on a daily basis. Just like as a fighter, you build and develop your fighting skills on a daily basis. So don't think that you need to stand loud and proud. I'm not afraid of anything. I haven't met a fighter. There was just someone. It was someone big. Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone is one of the baddest fighters, like ASS fighters there is. He was saying fighting's the scariest thing. I read an interview with him yesterday. He said, I've climbed to the top of mountains. I've jumped out of airplanes, and there's nothing that raises the hair on my neck like stepping into the octagon. Like it's so harrowing, but it's so like weirdly addicting and just building, person building, that it's an incredible thing. So you don't have to go fight someone, but continually step outside of that comfort zone in a safe way, and get comfortable with it, and then just keep expanding little by little. Next thing, this is a neat point. So the book I'm reading is a business book. Crushing It is about building your personal brand. That's what I'm doing. I'm building the Spaniard into a global brand. That's my goal here. Not just Spanish teacher who turned fighter, who turned speaker, but who turned global brand. That's what I'm reaching for here. Like that's it. That's the big thing I'm building. And one of the things that I said during the week was consider yourself a brand. So even if you're not selling anything, technically, right? You're not trying to make $1 from a product or advice consulting that you're selling. Ask yourself that: are you selling something? Are you trying to influence people? Are you maybe trying to teach your kids to do the right? Are you trying to influence your kids to do the right thing? If you're a teacher or a coach, are you influencing your team to make the right choices? If you're a business person, are you trying to act in a way such that you're influencing your superiors to promote you, or maybe put yourself in a position to get a job? So all of that goes in a promotion. All of that goes into your personal brand. All of that goes into establishing yourself in a way that that you represent something. That when you walk into a room or when you walk out of a room, there's an aura, there's an impression, there's an effect of you. One of my listeners, Lee Witt, one of my most loyal listeners turned friend, he brought this attention to me of elevate the room. So are you elevating the room when you walk into the room? Or is it like, oh, there's so-and-so slacker who never does anything and never arrives on time? Or are you walking in, well-kept, physically, mentally strong, physical and mental energy, such that when you walk in, there's like this ripple effect of whoa. That's the idea of a personal brand. When you see the swoosh symbol, what do you think? I think action, I think champion, I think top of the line, I think quality. That's what I think. So consider yourself a personal brand such that when you walk into the room or someone sees your name or your symbol, boom, that's what they think about you. So it's not just for business. So this idea of personal branding and influencing, it affects everything and everyone. Moving on. This is a really neat one. And this, for me, again, this was kind of a reflective point, but it certainly does apply. It applies to building my business, but it applies to you and kind of getting the most out of your life. That's a big thing. I was a person who was working a job that didn't want to be working that job, and I made a series of decisions such that I was kind of able to write my own story, and I'm still writing my own story. It's not, rich and famous and glamour, but it is freeing, and I love it. And I want to instill you with kind of the mindset and the strategies and the tools to do that as well, whether it's just a personal transformation or maybe it's a professional transformation. But Gary Vaynerchuk says that successful entrepreneurs share three characteristics. So successful entrepreneurs, but let's pretend that this said successful people, and then let's measure ourselves on these three characteristics: commitment to service, desire to provide value, and a love of teaching. Commitment to service. Let's get rid of business. Let's talk personal here. Commitments to service. Are you helping those people around you? Are you using your skills, your perspective, your insight, your abilities to help people around you? Certainly would make the world a better place. So are you committed to service? The second one, desire to provide value. Are you just kind of and this kind of ties in line with service, but what if you were able to make someone's day better every day? So you provide a service, right? Service to others. You help people. And then you add value, just meaning it's so simple as you just make their day better. You make them smile. You add a little something to their circle of the day. A desire to add value. That's what AMX is an altruistic thing, as I was talking about last week, but it's also a selfish thing. It helps me. I would be doing it anyway to stay on the straight and narrow, to be chasing and pursuing these extraordinary goals that I have. So it's like, why don't we just share it? Why don't we do it for everybody? And then we can create this community of go-getters and butt kickers. So 1, do you have a commitment to service? 2, do you have a desire to provide value? And 3, a love of teaching. These all, I mean, they essentially run together. The service, provide value, love of teaching. It's like, for me, it was self-confidence. I always battled self-confidence. It was this thing where I was, it was really good, but never the greatest, because it was always came back to self-confidence and a lack of belief in myself. If you want to improve your self-confidence, if you want to feel good about you when you look in the mirror, try committing yourself to service, try providing value to other people, and try teaching what you know to other people. That's serotonin. That's a neurochemical that's released from your body. That's serotonin. That's like, hey, I feel worthy and good because I'm teaching, I'm helping other people. It's a really special thing. And like I said, this was an entrepreneurial characteristic. These 3 characteristics: service, value, and love of teaching. But kind of measure yourself on that and maybe start doing one more and see if, hey, this does have a positive return on my energy right now. Next, we're going to talk about learning. Hashtag learning. Hashtag lifelong learning. Hashtag the Spaniard world's toughest lifelong learner. Learning is the foundation. So when you're training for any sport, I know there's a couple wrestlers watching. I know there's some runners watching on Facebook Live right now. It's like your training is your fuel. Your training enables you to compete in that sport. Running, wrestling, fighting, kicking, all that stuff. It's your fuel. So outside of that sport, where do we get fuel to compete in life? Where do we get fuel to excel at a high level in day to day? I have 2 young kids. One's 4 and one's 1, and it is so tiring and so exhausting. So what is that? What is that those repetitions? What are those miles that you're logging to compete in running? What is that but for life? What is that? When you're running, you're in a marathon, and it's mile 18. I remember I ran a marathon, and I was on mile 18, and I was cruising along, and I seriously thought, I'm going to finish. I think at that point I was running like 7 or 7.5 minute miles. It was really good, and I thought, I'm gonna blow everybody away. I'm going to dominate right here. By mile 21, I thought I was going to die. So from mile 18 to mile 21, it was like a total just smack me right in the face. So the training, the miles, the running, the repetitions of running, it prepped me for that. So even though it was super hard, I was built upon this foundation of training. Okay, take it out of the running and sports competing context. Let's put it in daily life. You're cruising along, mile, let's say Thursday of Saturday, Thursday of Friday, the 5-day work week. You're cruising along, boom, life smacks you right in the side of the face, just like mile 18 to 21 smacked me. What are you standing on at that point? What are you building off of? Where in the sports, you're building off of the prep and the repetitions, etc. What repetitions are you doing for life? And for me, that answer lies so clearly in learning. So clearly in learning. Because when, boom, it's Thursday, you're stressed, your kids are not behaving, you're up late, up early, you just don't have any more energy. By learning, by paying attention to shows like this, like the Spaniard Show and like AM Excellence, and by filling your mind with that one tool, strategies. I talk about goals. I'm talking about, the stats of uber successful people and their beliefs. I'm talking about, stories, anecdotes of other people who have been in those situations and pushed through it. That's your fuel. For me, that's my fuel. That's why I'm so die-hard about learning systematically every single day and then teaching it to you. Because it is service, it is value, it is a love of teaching, and it helps me feel good, it helps you. It's like, it's this total win-win-win. But the base of it is learning. So if you're in that rut, if you're having trouble getting from point A to point B, understand, and this is purely my opinion or my way, my process, my belief, is that learning really and truly is the basis of that. And for me, the basis of that learning comes by way of books. So take that with you, use it, adapt to it. If you just want to learn passively through me, listen every day. Listen to AM Excellence Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. live stream on Facebook.com/Charlie Spaniard. Or you can listen to, look, there's 420 as of today. This is Sunday, February 18th. There's 420 in my archives. Go back and listen to them. It's fuel to get you through the day, not just to get by, but to flourish. You know, not just to finish the race, but to finish the race, to run across that 26.2, boom, you're ready to rock and roll. That, for me, is what learning does for life. And the last thing I want to talk about, this is a really neat thing, and this is such a part of my evolution as a human being, because as an athlete, again, I know there's athletes watching on Facebook Live right now. Who's it about when you're competing? It's about you. You know, I know there's a wrestler that was watching. You know, when we were kids growing up wrestling, it was about us. Our parents sacrificed for us. If we were the only wrestler in our family when it came wrestling season, any sport really, but for me it was wrestling. When it came wrestling season, it was about sacrificing for us, my brother Ben and I, to wrestle, to take us to tournaments, to go where it was about us. In business and in life, when you get out of that sports competition, when you grow up with that mindset, you realize that it's not about me all the time, and it's really this shift. It really is a mindset shift. So Gary Vaynerchuk touches on this a lot. He says, look, I want to dominate the world, and I want to have a legacy that just is the biggest, baddest legacy. I want to own the New York Jets. I want to do all this crazy, crazy stuff. But I also want to help you. So it's selfish and it's selfless. And he says this: if you're 51% altruistic, meaning you're 51% about helping other people, concerned about other people, and 49% selfish, meaning it's me, 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 if you're at least tipping the scale in terms of altruism, then he says you've got a great chance of success. Now there's leeway, there's a conversation, we get into whatever. But that's the idea that it's okay, this starts with you. Leadership starts with you. This life, it's your life. You want to make sure you're enjoying it. But there really is this balance of altruism and selfishness, or selflessness and selfishness. That is it's one of those things in life that I truly appreciate, and that I truly, it's not easy. It's uncomfortable. It makes me sweat when I talk about it, because again, I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing and offending the wrong person. But at the end of the day, it's something we all battle with. But if you can keep your guiding light, that altruism, then I'm learning from Gary Vee, because he's where I aspire to be. That if you can keep that altruism out in front, you've got a good chance of success. This has been what I learned this week, number 48. I absolutely love doing this. Again, I sincerely apologize for not getting it to you at the supposed time, which is 6 a.m. on Saturday morning release. But, I messed up and then prioritized and executed, and here I am Sunday at 10:09 a.m. getting ready to go to church at 10:30. Hope you all enjoy this. As always, please visit charliespaniard.com. Opt in to receive this PDF. It's actually a piece of paper that will be emailed to you on Fridays. And be sure to subscribe on iTunes, share it, tell a friend, because again, I'm talking to anyone who's willing to listen. And in 10 years from now, I hope there's millions of people listening. Learn, my friends. I'm signing off. This is the Spaniard, the world's toughest lifelong learner, and I encourage you to think of yourself in that manner, right? You are tough. You are tough, right? You are tough. If you don't think you are, Start moving a little bit more with yourself. Start reading, start learning. You're going to realize that you really and truly are tough. So why don't you put that in your mind? Say, hey, I'm going to be the world's toughest lifelong learner. I'm going to fight intellectually. I'm going to fight the Spaniard because I want to be the world's toughest lifelong learner. That's what I want you to say. This has been fun, my friends. CharlieSpaniard.com. Be bold. Just be bold. Be bold. Have a great Sunday. I'll see you all tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Facebook.com/CharlieSpaniard for AMX 421. John, I kept trying to reach the best compilation at the end of every year. Here's what I would love to do. This would be awesome. And I'm going to put this out there. If there's any, and this is one of those things where I can't do it. I don't have the know-how. I don't have the time. I don't have the ability. If someone, one of you, would make a weekly compilation episode of powerful sound bites, like a minute episode of sound bites from the AMX episodes. So if you're a daily listener and you're good with tech, and maybe you listen at like 2x or 3x or 4x speed, and you want to help, I can't pay you anything. I can't do anything other than say, this week's episode is brought to you by so-and-so. A minute. Do you know how cool that would be? A minute of just powerful, in-your-face smacks. And maybe you could even get it from this episode, right? Maybe you could even get that from this episode. So that's really awesome. And John, I appreciate, I don't think that's exactly what you were talking about, but what your statement made me think that. So if you're that person, let me know. I'm going to bring this idea to Dread and see if we can rock and roll with it. Be bold. See you tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. for AMX 421. We're about ready to start a deep dive into the success principles by Jack Canfield, which is going to be awesome. 30-day deep dive into the success principles. Be bold, my friends.